Is that meaningless life? Lipovetsky says no. It's what he calls, and this is a really tricky concept, collective narcissism. Why is it tricky? Well, because a narcissist perspective is just looking at myself, okay, in the mirror. But what Lipovetsky means with this collective narcissism is that even though we look at each other in the mirror, and just each one of us, we look for a companion. We look for people that are looking on the same way. We form these small communities. It's not anymore the democracy, the whole society. It's the little groups that identify themselves with certain particular values. So it's looking at the mirror, but trying to find somebody that looks in their mirror in the same way, okay, so that we are not alone. And that is why he builds this idea of collective narcissism. Next slide is very important for me because it shows how the values are changing according to Lipovetsky, from modernity to post-modernity. What does this mean? These are two very important phrases. We are coming out, Lipovetsky says, from an age of production to an age of seduction. From the grounding of reality to the enchantment of the image. And you can talk about all the important things today in life, and everything is about seduction and enchantment of the image. I would love to have time to talk about examples of each one of those words, but I don't have time. But just take a couple of, like for language, for example. In modern times, language intends to be a reproduction of the reality. In postmodern times, language has to be seduction. It doesn't have to describe. Actually, it can describe reality, but it can build a reality based on interpretation. So this means that the word and reality are not together anymore. It's what I want to say, how I want to say. I was talking in the morning with Clark that, for example, a way of this beauty language of seduction is not calling anybody anymore a thief. There are no thieves anymore in our society. They are
kleptomaniacs.
Kleptomaniacs. Wow, that sounds fancy. It's like, oh, wow. They're not thieves anymore. So we have to say everything politically correct. We see the media, we see the news, and even though they are saying nothing, it sounds beautiful. Talking about sex, talking about sports. The other day I heard somebody saying like, oh, we live in a society where sports is a big issue. And I said, wait a minute. Sports today, it's not the society having the value, of good health and sporting. No. It's 22 guys going after a ball when millions of people are getting drunk in the stadium or in front of their TV screens. I mean, that's not a sporty society. We're not talking about that. So, if we see mass media, we're going to talk later about that, politics, the cybernetics, it is so, these objects are so beautiful. They are not only useful, but they are seduction, They're such a beautiful thing. Look at that. Guys, remember the computer some years ago? Ugly black things, and today they're just perfect again. And we are living the age of therapies. 100 years ago, we had psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis. Thank you. Today we have 100, maybe thousands of therapies, how to feel okay with yourself in 24 hours. Okay? So, there's an evolution. Those last words in the slide. At the beginning of modern times, our mythical figure was Prometeo. Prometeo is who steals the fire from the gods and gives it to man. Then came Faustus. Fausto is the one who uses knowledge to control the world. Then, in modern times, in 20th century, comes Sisyphus. Sisyphus is the guy that sees no meaning of life, is pessimistic and all this stuff. And at the end, now in postmodern times, it's Narcissus, the figure of our time, the one who is in love with his image. What does Narcissus bring? He brings images, therapeutic, sorry about my pronunciation, ideologies, you can read it, consumer culture, generic families. Can you help me explain the concept?
Just a more flexible idea of a family.
A more flexible idea of the family. Yesterday it was father, mother, and kids. Today it's father and father, mother and mother, or divorced, and kids here and kids there, and whatever.
I have to say,
adopted and what?
Bruce Willis and Ashton Kutcher, that example. Who's the daddy, right?
No idea what you're talking about, but anyway. Permissive education. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, when I was a kid, it was common that teachers would call me stupid. You're stupid. Today, I can tell my students that they're stupid. I mean, we are in a permissive education where everything has to be politically correct. Again, the image is the important thing. Okay? So, how am I going in time?
Yeah, you're good.
Images, the ephemeral. How do you say that word? Ephemeral.
That's good.
Is it a word you use? Or just the oldies that are in the back of me? In writing? Okay, the ephemeral. The central place of fashion. Lipovetsky has this book where he talks about the importance of the fashion today. Everything is fashion. And fashion means finding these objects that I use today and tomorrow just throw it away and get the next one. There are different philosophers and thinkers along the 20th century that have written against this idea, this evil place of fashion and the present, the concrete present of objects. Theodor Adorno of the Frankfurt Circle or School will talk about the fusion of things. Habermas about the consumption. Guy Debord, we just read something about him, about false consciousness. Heidegger against the technique. And I love this phrase of Lipovetsky. Quote, fashion is the worst scenario, except for all the rest. What does consuming the luxury mean today? We all have become people that consume luxury. This is a luxury object, the computer. That maybe some of you are thinking, no, but if everybody uses it, it's not a luxury. Well, no. Here comes the concept of Lipovetsky of a massive or a luxury for the masses, where everybody can consume this, and after 6 months or a year, you just, again, throw it away and get the new gadget.